Oh man, so Brian Armstrong is hitting back live against SEC and the Gary Gensler. Let's jump on over live to his interview on CNBC and react to it.
How all of a sudden you make that leap? That just seems arbitrary and capricious and vindictive, almost.
That is a regulation by enforcement approach. And, we met with the SEC 30 times in the last year. They never gave us a single piece of feedback about what we could be doing better. We just got silence. And when we asked them, how would you like us to register? We have this dormant broker-dealer license. Could we activate that? We really got silence. And so it's not appropriate for the regulator to come back and do an enforcement action if we don't have a clear rule book and clear guidance.
Congress has not done anything. Is it your only hope that Congress does something and acts, or that a judge rules on this? Because, look, there is case law. And again, the argument's been made that if they look at these things as security and judge them as such, you could be subject to everything the SEC is saying here. Well,
there's a couple of paths how this could be resolved. So one is, we go through the court system. And I don't think there's really case law created that's relevant to crypto yet. In fact, that would be a good outcome, kind of regardless of what the court decides, as we start to get clarity. Another option is, like you said, Congress.
And by the way, guys, that's an important point on why the market started rallying. Remember, when Binance were attacked, the market dumped on Monday. When Coinbase were attacked, the market rallied. There's various reasons for that. But the first one is that there was a rallying cry, right? Everybody, influencers, leaders of projects were getting together and really saying, you know what, enough is enough. Because CZ, to all intents and purposes, is a bit of an easy target. Even CNBC here, this host specifically, we reacted in the past to her really going in on CZ. He's an easy target for people to say, oh, maybe he's up to something dodgy, right? But it's different with Coinbase. It's different with the baby child of America that's trying to be the teacher's pet, that's trying their best to say, can you check our documents? Can you check our homework? Are we doing it properly? So for Brian Armstrong to be sat in this seat saying, we tried, the opinion from the public is going to be very different. The perception that Gary Gensler is going to have a very hard battle with this one.
Is starting to act. So last week we saw the McHenry-Thompson bill draft that came out. This is the start of something really useful, which is a clear market structure for crypto, clear delineation between what the CFTC and the SEC are supposed to do, clear consumer protections around wash trading and AML and these kinds of things. So, there's probably little details that need to be worked out, and I know that lots of people in Congress are starting to look at that. There's a few other bills being drafted as well, but we either need to get the clarity, I think, at this point from Congress or the courts, and they seem to have an interest in doing that.
It seems hard to have government agencies, whether it's the FTC or the SEC, that really seem overtly political. It depends on who gets elected every 4 years. Isn't it stated somewhere that these agencies are supposed to act in an apolitical way where...
Except that you look at the commissioners and they are completely...
The commissioners and then it's like...
but that's the case.
Let me ask you a separate question, which is...
There's no way
this is all happening against the backdrop of a case that's very different, but still in the news against Binance. And a lot of these things are getting conflated together. What was your reaction to that suit?
Yeah, well, obviously I don't want to comment on any other companies, but the timing was curious to put those back to back. And there may have been
not only did he do it back to back, right? They've done it back to back. So Monday he went Binance. He then went Coinbase on Tuesday. He then goes on a live TV parade on CNBC, which we reacted to. I'll link that up for you guys to go watch my reaction. I got heated in that one and passionate. Make sure you go watch that. And then the US Congress have said, oh, we're going to do a hearing, right? They're going to go and do it, the committee or whoever it is, they're going to go do a hearing on the 13th of June. 13th of June is CPI day, and the day before FOMC. Doing it on purpose.
Desire to conflate the two or something like that. But the companies could really not be more different, and the suits could not be more different. So, in Coinbase's case, for instance, there hasn't been any allegation of misappropriation of customer funds. I haven't been named personally. The executives haven't been named personally. The complaint in the Coinbase situation is really a technical matter about, do you classify these as commodities or securities? And,
But I'm not sure. I'm not sure, because the way they're writing the lawsuit against Coinbase as well is as if you're purposely skirting the rules. And Gary Gensler said that on his interview yesterday. He's saying these crypto companies, there's no room for them. The truth came out. He said, we've got the US dollar, we've got fiat currency. This is a war against crypto, right? It's not just a technicality like Brian Armstrong is saying. This is not just about securities and commodities, which, by the way, the SEC and the CFTC can't even agree on. It's not about that. This is about the fact that he's saying you're purposely trying to skirt the rules. All exchanges are. And you guys are saying, no, we're not trying to skirt the rules. This is a simple situation where we've been trying to ask you to give us clarity. You've not given us clarity. You created a gray area, And then you're saying, oh, look, you're doing something wrong. We're going to file a lawsuit. How can people operate businesses in the US like that? You know, this is acting like a third world country.
Here in the US, we've never operated a hedge fund or something that trades against our customers. All of our financial statements are audited. You know, the customer segregation, the funds and everything like that. People can take someone else's word for it, not ours.
In retrospect, do you think you would have been better off not going public? And I ask because I think there's probably a lot of public investors that, you know, went along for this ride, maybe very well should have known that part of this was a gamble and bet on not just your ability to execute as a business, but that the regulations and the laws would cut your way over time.
I don't regret going public. I mean, there's certainly some things about being a public company which are a little more difficult. You know, the private marks and the valuations, I think, you know, you can sort of defy reality a little bit for longer. Right. But no, I'm glad we became a public company because I want us to go first. It's not easy to go first. You're going to take a few arrows. You know, we have to educate the public market investors. We have to deal with the SEC. But that's what being the leader in the space means.
And that's why this is different. This is exactly why it's different. And by the way, guys, I'm very openly a shareholder of Coinbase. Very early on, when they started IPOing, I started waiting for the dips and dollar cost average into them. And it was for this reason. They're going to be the forward leader. And they're going to take all the hits, just like Brian Armstrong said. But he's put out that rallying cry. He said yesterday, we're going to do it. We're going to make it happen. And he's got to get his whole investor base behind him. He's got to get the whole crypto industry behind him. And so far, based on the way SEC Gary Gensler has done this, he's really picked the wrong enemy. If Gary Gensler was smart, what he would have done is pick these off one by one. But he's just gone after Binance and Coinbase in a 1-2 punch, right? And he's just got the whole crypto industry. Hang on a second. This is an attack on crypto. So that's that's kind of backfired there on Gary Gensler. But at the same time, Gary Gensler's approach is also quite smart. You can't underestimate him as well, right? He's trying to mark pretty much every single coin in the top 20 as a security, hoping that once it goes into court, he can negotiate a few out of there. But you know what his remit is. You know what his mission is. His mission is not to protect consumers. His mission is to stop crypto. He made that clear in his interview yesterday. We don't need digital currencies. In which case, I would say, why did you let Coinbase IPO then when you audited it back then?
So we're happy to do that.
Hey, Brian, no argument that you are very different than what we're seeing with Binance, the allegations that are made with FTX. Those are like flat.
She hates CZ. She absolutely ripped into CZ on her interview a couple of months back, which we covered on the channel.
Fraud charges. That is not what is in this complaint. But there could be some pretty serious repercussions as a result. It's not just a technical issue. Depending on how things are ruled on this, the SEC is asking for disgorgement of your ill-gotten gains and to pay prejudgment interest thereon. They refer back to 2021 when you had $6.8 billion in transaction revenue out of $7.4 billion total revenue. It sounds like there's a lot riding on this, even though they are not alleging not any of the things that have been alleged in the cases against Binance and FTX.
Well, obviously it's a serious matter, but you have to remember that, you know, we list over 200 assets. The complaint just names 13 of them, so it's a pretty small percentage of the assets that we trade. And, you know, it's also worth noting that a lot of our revenue now comes from non-trading fees. It's almost 50% of our revenue is from non-trading fees. And we also have revenue outside the U.S., which isn't affected by this.
But the $6.8 billion in 2021 that they point to from transaction revenue, is that what they are talking about? That
would be 100% of our trading fee revenue, I believe, in that year.
And it's your understanding that that's not what they're talking about?
Well, their complaint only references 13 of the 200-plus assets that we trade. So, yeah.
Okay, so interesting point there. The clarification he's making there, what she was saying was, hang on a second, so if they want to claw back your retrospective fees, which you've got on the trading fees for these securities, which you should not have been selling on your platform, he's saying, well, they've referenced 13 currencies from the basket of 200 that we offer. So if they if they win everything and say all 13 are indeed securities, then of course they're going to take 13, the proportion of the trading fees that came from those 13, not of all 200. Now, the interesting thing that of course came out with Binance was that US has filed now for a freeze on the assets of Binance's customer funds. I'm going to cover that off in my video later on today, and whether that now gets me worried around holding cryptos, because if they use that as a precedent and want to apply the same ruling across for Coinbase as well, we could be getting ourselves into a bit of a sticky situation. So make sure you look out on my video for later on today about how I'm feeling about all these altcoins. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to smash the likes, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.